know that there are MomCo meetups in nearly 100 countries? That's right, there are moms from Australia and Albania to Zambia and Zimbabwe. Your membership makes you a part of this global sisterhood, and each MomCo meetup receives culturally relevant content to meet the needs of their community. Your membership makes that possible. To see all the benefits of your individual MomCo membership, visit themom.co. We're glad you're here, Mama, and we hope you enjoy this video.
One of the most painful things I've ever had to do was raise my children while healing my own childhood wounds. Now, one of my most favorite things about raising my daughter, Dylan, was picking her up from preschool. I remember each day vividly. I'd jump out of my car with my mom jeans on, middle part, because I'm still young, okay? I'd walk into her school and pass up the art wall that all of the kids had created for their parents and caregivers. I'd get up to my daughter's door, open it, and she would run up to me, wrap her little arms around my legs and yell, "Mommy!" I could still see the veins in her neck from her excitement as she powered up like a Pokemon. And in my mind, I was like, well, I just wish they would keep you a little longer. Okay, just kidding, just kidding. Now, one day, I had done my same routine for pickup, but this time, when I got to her door, there was no Dylan. Now, I locked eyes with the teacher, and she knew that I would fight one of these kids if anything happened to my daughter. So she rushed over to me and said, "Miss Tony, Dylan's okay. She's been in our new art corner, coloring. She's actually really good." Now, in my mind, I knew that this was my time to activate dance mom mode, okay? I scooped Dylan up, I took her to Target, working on my French, because it was time to shop for art supplies of our very own. And I knew that my kid was gonna be the next Picasso, and she would take her mom to Paris, which is why I'm working on my French. We gathered all of the supplies, but listen, there was one thing I just couldn't leave Target without: the 64 count box of crayons. And of course, what was in the back? The sharpener in the back. Now, I took Dylan home and I set up a much better art corner than her little teacher ever could. Okay, I'm kidding. I let her do her thing though. And while I cooked her favorite meal, paschetti, that's what she calls it, something crazy happened. Because we all know two things to be true about kids. Number one, they break things. They break things on purpose. They break things on accident. They break things on purpose to make it look like an accident. Number two, there's this specific type of quiet that comes over the room where you know something has gone down in the worst way. And on that day, as Dylan was coloring, that quiet came over the room. And I went into the living room where she was on my tiptoes so she wouldn't hear me. And lo and behold, Dylan had robbed these crayons of their dignity. She had broken them in half. All their little clothes were all over the place. They were naked. And then she had the audacity to create some sort of mural, I think, on my wall with the black and purple crayons only. I still have a little PTSD. My pits are sweating, okay? I looked Dylan in the eye and said, "Baby, why did you break all these crayons?" And she looks at me with her 2-year-old sassy self, wonder where she gets that from, and she says, "Mommy, color," and keeps on coloring like she hadn't just broken all 64 of these crayons. Now, after I fed Dylan and put her to bed, I had to come back downstairs to clean up her artistic mess. And as I was scooping all of the crayons from the ground, I began to weep. Not like a cute Lifetime movie type weeping, but like a snot cry. One of those cries that's like, my life is broken like these crayons and I need to get a tissue ASAP type cry. You know how sometimes one little thing can topple over the entire thing? I mean, you know, it wasn't about the crayons or the mess that Dylan had made. It was the fact that I just processed through a very toxic marriage. I'd chosen safety for me and my daughter, and I filed for divorce, and that was just the first layer in the onion. The sexual abuse and manipulation I endured as a little girl, porn addiction, promiscuity, drugs, and alcohol, partying to block out the fact that I grew up with a verbally abusive father and a mom who was terminally ill. I'd become a caregiver when I was just 8 years old. And all of the darkness in my story felt like it had finally crushed me. Now, the journey after this moment had all sorts of twists and turns and betrayal and manipulation and even more heartache. And I can proudly say that I'm only standing strong today because of the foundational message of one scripture. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. It says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power will rest on me." The Apostle Paul, who wrote this, one of the leaders of the early Christian church, was writing a letter to one of the churches he started in a place called Corinth about how God has a grace and it's sufficient for our story, for our pain, for our divorces and breakups and financial struggles and diseases, for our doubts and insecurities and our depression. But not only that, we have a role to play in accessing God's power that can hold us up when we feel crushed. It's the second part of the scripture. It's our willingness to be weak and boast about our brokenness. Because it's right there in that surrender where we access the strength and power of God. I know what you're thinking, maybe. Like, the real question here is like, well, how, Tony? How is boasting about the things that make me feel weak or broken going to help? Well, friends, we can't heal what we aren't willing to name. And we typically aren't willing to name our brokenness because of shame. But access to God's power is at the intersection of our vulnerability and our honesty and our willingness to be humble enough to admit that we need help. Listen, I know what it feels like to wear a supermom cape that you didn't even put on yourself. I know what it feels like to pretend to be strong when all you really want to do is cry. And I also know what it feels like to stop hiding my pain and my weaknesses so that I can get the help and healing that I need. Hey, hiding is the kryptonite to healing, friend. So, I want to encourage you, maybe challenge you to step into the light, surrender, and watch God carry your burdens. The hardest thing I ever had to do was raise my children while healing. Lucky for me, and lucky for you too, I had the strength and power of God as my source. And today, I believe with all of my heart that my daughter taught me a beautiful lesson that day she destroyed those crayons. She taught me that broken crayons still color. That no matter what you've been through, no matter what's tried to break you and crush you, God still wants to create beauty with you and through you. So hold on tight, mama. The pain won't crush you. I promise. Hey, I'm Toni Collier, the founder of an international women's organization called Broken Crayons Still Color. I help women process through brokenness to get to healing and hope. I'm a speaker, host of the Still Coloring podcast, and author of 2 books, Brave Enough to Be Broken, and a children's book called Broken Crayons Still Color. I teach people all over the globe that you can be broken and still worthy, or you can feel unqualified and still be called to do great things. You can connect with me on ToniJCollier.com or on Instagram at ToniJCollier and Broken Crayons.